welcome back to our podcast. I'm the gentleman, accompanied by the disturbed Southern Belle.
Hello.
And in this episode, we will be continuing our Creepypasta series with The House of Rules.
Ooh.
So, that story begins, I live in a house of rules. I know. What does that mean? I should explain. I moved here around 3 months ago, flat number 27. The flat was a repossession, and I have to this day never met the previous owner. However, I do still get mail from them or for them from time to time. I could make up something like I can feel his presence everywhere, or I can hear his screams in the darkness. But this is not a work of fiction, nor is it written to entertain. I had just gotten a promotion at work, one that I had been waiting on for years, but it also meant working at an office that was further from where I currently lived. When I found the flat, I was overjoyed. Not only was it well located, but it was also well within my price range. Granted, it was pretty run down, but it had so much potential. It's a duplex apartment with a guest room and a spare bathroom on the ground floor, as well as several various rooms on the top floor. So the purchase proved to be a complicated ordeal due to poor record keeping. And as I waited for the deal to be closed, I went back several times to visit, and each time I would be amazed by a window or a cupboard that I had not previously noticed. Or I would notice how rooms seemed to be bigger and lighter, appearing more inviting.
Mm-hmm.
The neighbors in the block of flats are a strange lot. They never talk, and they keep to routines so precisely that you sit and watch by them. When I first moved in, I had invited everyone over for a housewarming party, but no one had come. Kind of mean, but whatever. They all come and go at the same time every single day. When they all get home each evening, they enter their houses and never leave during the night. I never even hear them making any sounds at all during the night. Later, a nervous man who lives in a nearby flat apologized for his lack of attendance at my party, explaining that he wasn't allowed to. At the time, I had assumed he had met his wife, but now I'm not so sure. As he is the only one that has spoken to me since the move, I did my best to become friendly and had felt like I was beginning to make some headway. But then I'd made a grave mistake. I asked him about the previous owner. As soon as I asked, he began awkwardly making excuses to leave, behaving stiffly and awkwardly. I haven't seen or heard from him since.
Okay.
The rules, as I came to understand them, became apparent to me slowly over time. The first rule I discovered was to only sleep in my bedroom. I once allowed myself to fall asleep in the lounge to test my theory. I fell asleep lying on the sofa. However, when I awoke, I found myself lying behind the sofa, in between the sofa and wall. I remember having an odd feeling wash over me as I was on the brink of sleep, a feeling that I was somewhere I shouldn't be. The feeling remained when I awoke and would not leave me until I'd entered my bedroom. I stumbled to my bed, pulled the covers over my head and body, and I lay awake the rest of the night. Things seemed normal for a while after that, so I began to get complacent. I made the mistake of falling asleep again while in the lounge. However, this time it had been accidental. I again awoke with the feeling that I wasn't safe and I was not wanted here. This time, I had also been wearing a sweater earlier that I had discarded on a chair across the room before I reclined on the sofa. And when I woke up, however, the sweater was tied around my neck, tight enough to leave marks on my throat.
Jesus.
The rule of only sleeping in my bedroom stand beside countless others, such as I have to clean up the dishes immediately after eating. I got my first warning about this via a safety pin that was jutting out from the back of my sofa.
Good gosh.
I quickly learned not to take long showers. I figured this out when I had one day remained too long in the shower and the water suddenly turned scalding hot and would not cool no matter what I did. I also learned to keep the place tidy, that I must not waste electricity, and that no matter what noises I hear during the night, I should never, ever go out to explore.
Okay.
One night, when things had again died down for quite a while, I began to feel bolder. I stayed awake all night, I blasted music, I did whatever I wanted to. I even began to think I had triumphed. Soon after, I began to have a headache, and then the nausea began, which only got worse and worse. The flat had a gas leak, I barely made it out alive.
Jeez-less.
It's getting more and more extreme,
It's
if
getting
you
pretty
haven't been
bad.
able to tell.
Yeah.
I have so many other examples, I don't even know where to begin. I just need you to look past your skepticism and to please see this as real. I am being ruled. The rules are only a part of it. The rules are the part I play. The rest is done without me and also around me. The walls shift and move. Doors will one day open only to remain closed the next. The windows in my bedroom increased one by one over 5 consecutive nights and then went back to one again.
That's creepy. What
There's
the
a cupboard at the top of the stairs that constantly changes sizes. I was terrified the first time I had opened it, only to find it several meters deeper than it had been previously, which is insane.
Yeah.
Several meters ain't no small
I know, that's
distance.
a good portion, yeah. What the hell?
Anyways, have you ever woken in the night to find a chair sitting at the end of your bed? A chair that came from the dining room, which is down a flight of stairs and down a hallway. Have you ever entered a room in your own home to find a piece of furniture that you don't own just suddenly there, only to later disappear? I have lived through all these things and many more. Had I been a more scientific man, then maybe I would have had the foresight to keep a log of all the strange events. I would have gotten proof that would have shown the world that I am not crazy, shown them that all of this is real, and proof of the nightmare I am living in. It's been 5 hours since I have sat down and began to write all of this down. I had hoped that maybe I could prepare a sandwich, but fear of finding, or worse, missing a stick pin in my bread quickly made me lose my appetite.
That's so good. Ugh.
It's starting to get dark. Just like my neighbors, I live a life of routine. I just turned off my music. No loud noise after dark is one of the rules. It's actually the rule I hate the worst because the heavy fog of silence is all around me and makes me feel so alone. You also have to be careful about your lights. Never leave one on in an empty room, and only one to a room. Failure to follow this rule will likely see all light bulbs in your home exploding.
Good grief.
So currently I'm using the light from my computer screen, a TV, and a small lamp. I make sure to keep the light as muted as possible. Thankfully, I have a satellite outside, and with that, I have hundreds of channels to watch. But right now, I can't find anything that looks good, so I settle for a documentary on National Geographic. I can hear the host droning on about carnivorous plants as I type this message. I tried to turn the TV off when I began to hear the struggling of a beetle that had been caught by one of the plants, but the remote suddenly stopped working. I had to finally pull the plug out of the wall to make it stop. I was a bit scared to do this, as the thought it might not ever come back on quickly ran through my mind, but I also knew the sounds and images on the screen that were playing is a maddening loop. Would have driven me insane. I could try to be more pushy with the neighbors to make someone talk. I could start a fire or just burn the whole building to the ground. But truly, I just want to get by. Thankfully, most of the punishments are minor, but sometimes I can't say too much about it now. But needless to say, I will carry the scars of it for the remainder of my life.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like I'm being trained, much like a dog being swatted with a rolled up newspaper. The occasional demonstration of strength, the enforcement of the rules, then the mild punishment when I transgress. I truly hope that I can behave, because stepping out of line causes me nothing but harm. I suppose it is out of fear and also the preservation of my own human dignity that I do not go into the full detail right now about what the house does when it truly feels the need to punish me. Which brings us to the here and now. I cannot go on. I have made the decision to write everything down, using the last of my will to fight. I am asking for help. I cannot talk on the phone. I cannot write a letter. My only hope is to write it up as an inconspicuous story, one that hopefully won't draw the wrong attention to its content. All I can hope is that it believes me. Or all I can hope is that someone will see my cry for help and believe me. That someone can figure out how to contact me so that they can give me a lifeline I so desperately need. I cannot ask directly. That would be way too risky. Besides, any attempt for me to get help is seen as breaking the rules, so I am quickly met with pain, suffering, and terror. I fear being free. I fear the punishment I will get for trying to leave. I fear breaking the rules. I'm surprised they have let me get this much down. I have managed to get this letter down without a single error on my computer and without the power going out. Maybe there's still some hope left. But the truth is, I'm scared. Scared of whatever will grab my face in the darkness of my bedroom, like the time I left a tag or a tap dripping. My cheek is still swollen and bruised from its brutal assault. I'm scared of the thing that left a pair of scissors in my slippers. I'm scared of the entity that can move plaster walls and wooden doors, seemingly on a whim. Most of all, I'm scared that just by writing this, I may find myself waking up in a tiny room that has no doors or windows. A room that grows smaller and smaller each time I blink.
That is another nightmare-inducing thing. Oh, God.
Yeah, that is awful.
That's creepy. It's a good one, though.
It's a very good one.
But it is very creepy. Like I said, that's just nightmare-inducing to think that you're just trapped in this endless... You can't get out, basically. It's stopping you.
Definitely one of my new favorites.
Yep. I like it. Anyway, we're going to be continuing our series of creepypastas. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And don't forget to stay disturbed.